This is the podcast, not an interview. This is a conversation. No gimmicks, just reasons. 84 reasons. Come holler at me. Man, what up, my good people? I am your player partner, man. I'm your brother from another mother, your cousin, your aunt, whatever you want to call me these days. I am being true. This is 84 Reasons, no games, no gimmicks, just reason. But this week, man, I'm going to do my best to introduce this gentleman as best as I can. From the Dominican Republic. First Dominican I ever met in my life. Was ignorant as all get out when he first told me. I didn't even know what that meant. By way of Hoboken, New Jersey. One of the best football players I've ever been around, but by far one of the best men I have ever met. Brothers in my life. My brother, number 23 on the field, number 1 in my heart, the great Carlos Sugar Booger Perez. What's going on with you today, Sugar Booger Lowe's? What's up, baby?
Hey, doing well, man. It's such a great opportunity to be in front of the legend himself.
No, man, never that. I gotta get into it though, Los. I mean, I obviously met you in 2000. We talk about culture shocks, right? People talk about, oh man, I got to go from home to Florida. Hoboken is one thing, but I don't even know where you were even. I know you had been in Hoboken a little while, but what is it like coming from Dominican Republic, even though you was real young, to Hoboken? You used to tell us about some of them grown men chasing y'all in the neighborhood. Like some of these dudes was lame, man. They chasing us through the neighborhood. But what was the harder transition? Was it figuring out life in America, or was it going from Hoboken to Florida?
So I think both of them were challenging by itself, but I think that the first transition from DR to America was interesting because in DR it's only one culture. So especially in the area that I was at, everybody spoke Spanish. They all kind of looked different. So when I moved to the United States, I couldn't fit in nowhere. I was too black for the Spanish. The light-skinned Spanish people before the term Afro-Latino came out, that wasn't a thing. So, they really didn't accept me. So I was, like I said, too black for the Spanish. And then when I went to my brothers and sisters, my African-Americans, and they were trying to communicate, they were like, walla, walla. And I couldn't. I was too Spanish for the black. So I tried to kind of find my balance and, just really was able to own, my own culture, my own self, my own person, that, I fit in, I don't fit in those boxes and I fit in my own box. And just really, that was a tough transition because I didn't fit in. But I really, really connected. I grew up in the project. So, you connect by your experiences, not necessarily a culture in the projects. We had everything in there. And, it all worked out. Now, when we went down to Florida, I thought I had life figured out. And then, I had to learn a whole new language, which is down South Florida boys. Boy, if you don't know what that is, that's a whole new language. My people from Georgia and everybody from down South, that's a whole new world. And then I had to kind of re-explain to them what a Dominican was, like you. Also, just loving, who I am and what I do. So, I mean, both transitions were crazy.
Los, when did you accept you though? You talk about, man, I came from Hoboken. I mean, I came from Dominican Republic. I'm too dark for the Dominican, the light-skinned Dominicans. I'm black, but I speak Spanish when it comes to black people. When did Carlos Perez say, look, man, either I'm gonna be me and love me and let go of the acceptance, or I'm gonna be spending my life trying to people please, which is a never-ending ride?
Yeah, I mean, I think what really hit me was like connections, right? Like, when you really get down to it, we were all dealing with the same struggles in the hood. We was all dealing with the same stuff. And I really, just connected with my brothers, my black people. But then also, like, at the end of the day, I started connecting with, some Spanish people. So I think the question that you asked is best described as, I guess when I started to, have knowledge of my history, of my past, I think if we don't know who we are, it's very difficult to go anywhere, to know our future. So when I started to know, the slaves were left in in DR. We just the boat dropped us off earlier, but at the same time, there was infused in Spanish, the food, the culture. So just loving who I am and loving, the uniqueness of that experience. I think that's when I really started to, own up to who I am and really live up to that person.
Los, you the only Dominican I know play football. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's other ones. But you leave the Dominican Republic. You come to Hoboken. You start playing football. You really, really good at it. I know Mom Dukes was like, I don't really know what's going on. I just see they out there hitting him. I don't really know what's going on. When did football become that thing that you say, look, obviously if you're from DR, if you from, Puerto Rico, you from those islands, you want to play baseball. And you have to do it by a certain age. When did Carlos Perez say, you know what, this gonna be my sport? I like it. I know moms don't really know what's going on, but I appreciate her being supportive. When did you realize, all right, football gonna be the sport that, hopefully take me to college and beyond?
Yeah, no, so I definitely wanted to play baseball. It was just in my culture, my blood. I wanted to be the next Sammy Sosa. That you already know what that looked like back then. But growing up in the projects, football was a real big thing in Hoboken. We had people who were getting D1 scholarships. The likes of Rashard Casey went to Penn State. We had people going to Syracuse, and my best friend Tyrell Dortch. We used to play like in the front yard, and he, saw some of the things. I had no idea what the game was. I would just run in, catch in, and just making moves and he introduced me to football. However, my father, my mom, they didn't really want me to play. So, I just did whatever young, respectable young man did. I just played without telling them. They used to hide my equipment. It was crazy in the house. They used to hide my equipment. And I remember being a freshman in high school, and the coaches didn't know. I used to sign all the permission slips and all that stuff, hide my equipment in people's houses. And my dad, I came out in the newspaper one day, and my dad showed up to practice, big dog. When my dad showed up to practice, I took off my jersey, took off the pads, everything. I ran home in a girdle. It was crazy because I ain't trying to get beat in front of people. How them island dudes do. So when I went home, the coaches came over to the house and spoke to my parents. And told them that, I really had a gift that I could, go to college for free. And, my mom, just really, she's a praying woman. She said, yeah, let it be if it is. And, man, it kind of changed my life, just really loved the game. Really, I didn't know where the game was going to take me. It happened so fast. I had college coaches, Spurrier, Notre Dame. They're in my house. My parents don't know English. They don't know the magnitude. I'm translating it. I didn't even know the magnitude of it. So it just happened so fast, and it's just those things in life that now I take it. Like back then, not that I took it for granted, but I didn't know the magnitude. Now I really can say, wow, that was crazy. What the life that God had for me. So.
Los, how freeing was that though? As much as you was trying to hide it from Mom Dukes and Pops, when Pops finally saw you, you was like, well, the secret is out now. And then Los, you was a fast human being, so I don't even want to know how fast you were running to the crib that day. Like, bro, if they would have clocked you, bro, I was moving. But your coaches show up, talk to moms and dads about it. Dad's like, all right, I don't really understand it, but if y'all coming over here to talk to me, it's got to be something about him. How much better of a football player did you become after that moment? Because now I don't got to hide it anymore. Now I just really go out there and play free.
No, definitely. I mean, it just changed everything because, now your parents, anytime, and this is a lesson that we should learn, we encourage our kids to do something and we have the backing of them, we just are able to put more focus. So I was able to put more focus. I was able to focus in school as well. And I saw a pathway to greatness. I started to believe what people would say about me. I started putting in the work. And I got a lot of those things from my dad. My dad came from DR, left everything working in the factory, working extremely hard. So I think that I already had that drive to work hard. But now I was able to put that drive into a focus. So yeah, it was definitely freeing. But even I still didn't know the magnitude, and it's similar to your story when we met. Like, Yo, we was just out there. We didn't really know the magnitude. Yo, we really out here in front of 90,000 people. But now that I look back, it was just, it's wow, it's amazing.
I tell people this all the time. When people be asking me about, like, who the people. People always ask us about college and our time, and people think it's gonna be about the games and the practices. And I said, man, you meet people. Not only that you happen to meet them, but you needed them. Like, you needed them at this current point of your life. You needed them to show you. And I always say, I said, look, when it comes to friends, I said, man, you need three kinds of friends, man. You need a friend that's gonna hold you accountable. I said, you need a friend that's going to be your spiritual compass, and you need a friend that's just a fool. He's just going to make you laugh, right? And I said, when I tell you my spiritual compass was Carlos Perez, because you talk about your mom being a praying woman. My mom is praying. She's always said, that Carlos, man, he's really, really respectable. He's really, really, my mom, and I say that to say, yeah, I'm not coming that far. I'm coming from Georgia, but it might as well have been, California, because most of us have never been away from home. So I first meet you. You got on the Florida Gator basketball jersey, right? You got on some shorts. You got on some Timbs, right? And here's the thing: when you say, we finna go hoop, we think, all right, we finna hoop. People you come out there with, let's go, like with the Timbs on. But I remember this though. I remember this. These are things you weren't privy to, Los. I used to hear what Jabbar, Riche, Alex Willis, Taylor Jacobs, and all Hagelbrook used to say about you and Kite. They said, look, boy, these youngers in this 2000 class, we better be on our stuff because they coming. And I think the thing about you, Los, was one thing about it. I said, Los is very soft-spoken, but that boy can play football now. Listen, he ain't gonna cuss at you. He ain't gonna be disrespectful. Now, I don't know how it was with y'all in the DBs. Y'all had a love-hate relationship, you and Gus and Keywan and Lito, but you could play, Los, and that's the thing, because that 2000 class was loaded. I didn't even realize how loaded we were till now. I'm like, God, dog, like D. Lee and Corey and Ian Scott and Willie Green and Carlos Perez and Kelvin Kite and Travis Harris and Matt Starks and Shannon Snell. I'm like, wait. And to know that we was apart, never met each other till we got there. I'm saying that to say, Los, my life in college would not have been the same without you, because, I grew up in the church, so, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. You were always consistently loving God. It was never a situation, and I know how hard it is in college now, but people who don't know, there is temptation and there is God. College is like, Lord, please, I'm doing my best. They everywhere. They everywhere. I can't go and eat. I can't. But I will say this: sophomore year, me, you, Ron, and D. Lee, boy, that was the greatest time of my life, because we all right there together. How would you describe Florida? Because you had some good moments, but ups. How would you describe your Florida experience as a whole?
Yeah, man, it was in the beginning it was hard, man. I was super homesick, I was lonely. But that's why you guys are so important in my life, man. I was probably one of the people that was the furthest. I couldn't go home. You guys opened your home. Your families became my family. Your parents showed me mad love. And that was needed. Coaches, Coach D, man, he really showed me, because it's hard, man. A lot of people don't understand that. And especially it was the narrative that, Florida's only going to play their Florida people, So when I came in there, already you already had people, talking about different receivers, different people. And they're like, yo, Los, you ain't going to play. And, that sparked the fire in me, and because that was a lot of the recruiting techniques that they were using back then. They were like, yo, why you going down there? The Penn States of the world, Notre Dame's, all the Big Ten teams, Ohio State, like, Florida only play their players. So, when I got down there, it was difficult. And then also too, man, that speed down there is something else, man. That gameplay, that speed, and that heat is something else. So it was just so many different variables that I had to overcome when I first got to school. But I think, the receiver room, Jabbar Gaffney, Riche Colwell, God rest his soul, somebody that was super influential in my life. He really took me under his wing, showed me super love. Alex Willis, Hagelbrook, Taylor, those guys, they're really amazing. And you know, it was interesting because Florida is so competitive, but there's a brotherhood there. And you know, if you don't compete, you get left. But also, you know, you're gonna get an opportunity to compete. And when you compete, you gotta take advantage of the competitions because practices are like full on games. You know, we would be in there with the DBs going off, you know, there was, you know, punches thrown in practice, there was stuff happening, you know,
Yeah.
and if you didn't man up, if you didn't step up, you know, you were gonna get left. So you know, Florida, the transition and building a core group of friends, you know, in the moments of loneliness, in the moments that, you know, you have ups and downs, you know, you're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with just like not being where you feel like you could be. You know, you have those people to lift you up, and you know, most importantly, you know, you guys never ever came at me on my faith. Y'all let me walk out my faith regular, like y'all love me. You know, we used to go out and you know, y'all respect me. I'd be like, I'll wait right here, wait for y'all to do, you know, do y'all thing and come right back. And it was just so much love to this day that, you know, when we see each other, you know, those were moments that shaped my whole life. And, you know, but Florida was a different beast, man. Everybody know that.
I will say this, you know, to be everybody, you know, we got kids now. I know you got 3 sons. When I got a son and 2 daughters, and you know, you having kids yourself, you know, we look at them and say, man, we want the best for them, but we don't want to push them towards anything they don't want to do. Definitely don't want them thinking that they got to live. You know, you don't got to represent that troop name, that Perez name. You are already doing it, regardless of what you do. You are already doing it. But however, we don't know what it's like to be our kids. We know what it's like to be, you know, our parents' children, but we don't know what it's like to be. I mean, you know, some people. I mean, you Carlos Perez kid? Yeah, the Carlos Perez. Yeah, we'll never know what that's like. My daughter, man, my youngest daughter, Yaya, man. She is me in the flesh. This kid, she plays basketball, but she'll say, Daddy, they say I'm only good because I'm your kid. I said, no, because that's not true. That's what they'll say to get you off your, you know, your spot, to make you think something. And I'm saying that to say, how has fatherhood, because I'm gonna get into you know, how has fatherhood changed you, Los?
Man, fatherhood is one of the biggest blessings of life. And there's no manual for fatherhood. We can read books, we can have concepts, we can see others, but every child is so individual. So learning a child is like learning a playbook. You got to know what, you know, how they feel. Just because they have your genetics, they're just totally different individuals, and you have to really learn them. So fatherhood has taught me, you know, true love and patience and just the ability to be there supportive, you know, because you always want the best for your students to create resources. So fatherhood is an ever learning process. You know, there's a transitions when they're, you know, toddlers, or when they're babies, then they're toddlers, then they're, you know, teenagers, and then, you know, there's all different transitions. And you know, one thing that I learned that I passed down to them is that you're not what you do, you know, because a lot of football is wrapped up in identity. You know, you're not just, you know, a football player. You're not just, you know, a person that just gets great grades. Like you know, you're a special, you know, you're created in God's image. You're amazing already. You don't have to do anything to make me proud. And you know, just live those moments with my children. It's what makes me, you know, love life a little bit more. So it's a process. I'm learning right now. I'm dealing with teenagers, and it's great so far. And you know, just when they become adults, just even transitioning into that relationship. So
I don't want to know. I'm gonna date it wrong. I know I'm gonna get this date wrong, but I want to say it's 2001. Los meet this young lady at a Christian retreat. I don't want to say it happened in 2001. It happened around 2000, 2001. And he comes back, and we're like, Los, what's up with you? He said, I met her. Man, who? And I met her. Her name was Madeline, man. I met her. It was a great. I remember the biggest teddy bear ever made. This got to be the biggest teddy bear ever made in life. And this is what we loved about you, Los. Los, man, you're gonna have to, man, you can't take that teddy bear on the plane, man. You're gonna have to get a ticket for that teddy bear. What you mean? That teddy bear, it's like the stuff we used to say to you, Los, you made life so grand. But you got 3 sons. It would not be possible without the greatest, helpmate in the world, your wife, Madeline. How has marriage not changed you, Los? How it has shaped you?
Yeah, man. I mean, marriage has been, it's been great. But anything great, you have your challenges, you have your, but man, I really got an amazing partner. She's really, just gifted in her own ways. She's an educator. She has passion. She's patient. And we just make a great team. Just like anything. And she, lets me do kind of, lets me be me, and I let her be her. And but when we come together, we are us. So I think love, discipline, understanding, all those things, are part of marriage. We just celebrated 19 years the other day, and um, you guys were there throughout the whole process from the beginning. Like just clowning and being funny, but you guys always like wanted the best, want the best, for me. And I think it's good because, people give up on like the ability, to have like true commitment and love and relationships. You hear on all these podcasts, like maybe that's not like a thing. And I get it. I'm not going to push and force anything upon anybody. However, it's really irresponsible to say like that, this, monogamy and marriage doesn't work. And, it's such a stability for the family, for my kids, for us to grow. She was there throughout like the good times when I broke my leg in Florida, to when I got released from the Philadelphia Eagles, and I was able to build my life right back up. And just going through those moments and making memories, it kind of like unites you at a different level with people. So yeah, Madeline is she's crazy. She's dope. I always say she's my better half.
Oh, indeed. I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I feel the same way about my wife, Cheryl. My wife, my wife and my mom got the same name. Mom named Cheryl, wife named Cheryl. So I'm sandwiched in between. I'm sandwiched in between Cheryl's at this point. But I will say this. Los, obviously when I be going to church and I be listening to my bishop and he be saying things that remind me of you. Because a lot of times you be like, man, what was it about this person? What was it about the situation? And we had a sermon. He was talking about being a filling station. He was talking about, we were talking about the widow lady who had lost her husband. And she had her 2 sons, and they was going to put her sons into slavery. And they asked, and the prophet said, "What do you have in your house?" And she said, "I got this oil." So the sons gathered up all this, and they filled it up with as much oil as she could. And then when they ran out of stuff to fill it up in, the oil ran dry. You are a filling station, not just for me, but for your wife, for your kids, for your home, being an educator. Because, and people say, why a filling station? A filling station means you don't run out of what you have to give. You will not run out because God supplies it. You are the same now than we were back then. The only thing now is, man, if somebody would have said, man, who you think will be a great husband? Like as we get older, Los, who you think will be a great father? Los, why? Because he loves people. Like he loves people first. To the point where sometimes, because, I tell my kids, I tell anybody, I said, man, I said, if you want to know what you look like, look in the mirror. You want to know who you are, look at your children and look at the people you affect. That's who you are. The people you affect and your children, that's who we are, period. And people say, well, they say, well, why not your wife? I said, your wife is the greatest decision you will make. That's the greatest decision you will make. If you, regardless of what happens. And I say that to say, because, the fact that this youngin from the Dominican Republic, Hoboken, New Jersey, can run. Listen, I don't know what your favorite route was, Los, but the fastest I've ever seen you run. I seen y'all get it with them 100. It's 2003. We ain't running the goal screen like we did in 2002. We ran to the death against Georgia in 2002. We run one goal screen in 2003. Lowe's, you was running so fast that you fell in the end zone. I said, number one, right? We know how fast each other is. All I saw was I'm looking, and I just see you come out there, right? I said, God, and mind you, and it couldn't have happened to a better person because you really, really unselfish as a football player, as a person. But was there a moment in Florida as a player that you said to yourself, dude, I can do this? Because SEC football is humbling. It's extremely humbling. Was there? I listen, for me, I saw you catch that. To me, I think you got in the end zone against Corey Webster at LSU. I think you got in the zone. I could be biased. I think you got in. You gave him that little wing. But was it a moment for you, Lowe's, that you said, dude, I'm built for this SEC football stuff?
Yeah, man. SEC football it's humbling. Florida football is humbling. I mean, it's the closest thing to the next level, and you gotta be ready all the time. I think for me, when I felt like I belonged was the really support of my teammates. People who, all Americans, Jabbar, Riche, and you guys would say, "Hey, man, you can do this." But I think when I came into my own was my junior year. At one point, I was leading the SEC in receptions. Taylor went down for a few games, and I became Rex's main target. I'm going 9 receptions, 12 receptions, 11 receptions every game. The game started to slow down to the point that I'm like, man, I remember killing it. Ole Miss, I had 2 touchdowns in the first half. Like, I felt like, nobody could stop me out here. I can, and it's really connected to confidence. So I tell all the athletes out there now, it's like, man, like, you are your own blessing, but you are your own curse, because it's really connected to your confidence. When you feel that you can do this, you can actually do this. So I think my junior year was when I was like, man, yeah, I definitely belong in the SEC, going against Webster, going against all these guys, Carlos Rogers, I'm like, man, I belong here. I can really, do my thing out here. But going back to that Georgia, 2003, man, we ain't lose to Georgia. We ain't lose to them dogs. And it was a tight game. And man, when I got that ball, man, all I just saw the end zone, and y'all still clown me to this day. That was the worst celebration in history. I felt.
I didn't care. I didn't care about the celebration as much as the fact that, like, how people hear the whole notion of you got shot up again. I said, Lowe's, did you feel like you was moving faster than? Because you was like, dude. I'm like, because for those who don't know, a go screen don't supposed to break. Not like that. You can get 8 to 10. Dude, you outran the coverage. Did you feel as though you was, doing that?
Man, listen, I know Kike and OJ, they did a good block, and I saw the safety real quick from the side. And I just put my head down and I said, we're gonna try to catch me in the end zone, and he wasn't even close. So I don't know. I feel like the Lord gave me a little extra boost that day. I ain't run that fast ever. But I wasn't thinking. I think that's what it is, man. When you're not thinking and you're just playing, it's almost like when I saw you jump over the guy for the first time, man. I was like, I'm in the middle of the play blocking, and I see you jump over somebody. I'm like, you jumped over a whole human being. That was before people do it now, like try to hurdle. Like, I feel like you started the hurdle before hurdle was even a thing. You jumped over the whole human being, and I was like, what in the world is happening? And I remember having a conversation with you, and you was like, I don't know, I just felt like jumping, so I jumped. So I felt like it was the same play, man. I just ran, man.
Yeah, but so many moments that stand out with you, Lowe's. One of the biggest moments was, I don't know what church had you preaching that day, but it was a bunch of us went with you, and it was football player. We had some volleyball players, maybe some. It was girls and guys, and we already knew you, me, Gus, Ron. You know what I'm saying? D-Lee. We knew of you had we even though we hadn't gone to church with you yet. But I'm just looking at, the eyes and the ears and the emotions of, the people that came with us. And they was like, oh, so yeah, this is who Lowe said. Like, because a lot of us, all we had was, football as our identity. To me, that was never your identity. You just could play. What was that moment like for you when we was like, hey, Lowe's, we going with you? What? We coming with you this Sunday. What was that like for you?
Man, that was such an amazing thing, because I feel like we have one job in this world, and it's to create impact, and to especially those who you care about the most. And my friends, the people who are close to me, are the people that I care about the most. So then when you guys accepted the invitation and I had to preach that day, I'm like, man, I was super excited. for you guys already see me in that light, but I remember like the volleyball team came, everybody came, and
Yep.
I was able to like just, preach to God. I'm very passionate about just regular things in life, even football, but imagine about something that I feel is the most important thing in life. So that day, I was able to like preach the gospel. I was able to talk about Jesus. I was able to go off, man. And just like on the football field, and, to see the expression of you guys and the support, I feel like those moments are like what really shaped me today, because I'm like, man, if I was able to get to the people who really experienced certain things in college, maybe God has called me for this, and that kind of propelled, me in ministry. Now, how we planted a church, or we were called to a ministry 12 years ago, and we've been in that same way, and I'll never forget that moment where my friends, people who really see how I live on a day-to-day basis and really experience what it is to be in Florida, what it is to be a student athlete. At that time, it wasn't NIL, but we were still. I didn't even want to talk about that. It wasn't NIL. But we were still, in that in a different type of world.
Yeah.
So, for you guys to really tell me that was impactful, I knew that I could reach the masses with the message and the way that God has me delivered.
That moment for me, looking back on it now, because a lot of times when you're young, you have feelings and emotions, you don't know how to articulate them. Like somebody, I mean, how you feeling? You don't know how to articulate it. It takes time to do that. What you did for me in that moment, Los, let me know. It's like you said, a big gigantic. It's okay. Like, look, being who you are got to be okay with you, and you got to care less about it being okay to people who can see you. Because a lot of times we chasing. People say, man, what you chasing when you young? I say, what you chasing for real? Yeah, acceptance, validation. You want it in a way and football gives you that in practice, in the weight room, in the games. You can get instant. Life is not like that. Life doesn't give you. Sometimes life is giving you validation, but it's not coming through words. It could be coming through admiration. What you did in that moment was, because I'm looking at you and I'm looking at us, and I'm like, Los ain't got a care in the world, man. Like, look, like, and in that moment, I said, authenticity is something that you don't care who sees you in it or doing it. And authentic is all in the word. It's not a carbon copy. It's not fabricated. I'm looking at all of us that came and they saying, dude, I'm looking at the tears in their eyes saying, dude, look at this dude. And it's like, I said, no, man, this is who we are. Los is just not afraid to express it. I believe what you showed is what we are, but most of us are afraid. Either we're afraid to say, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to worship. I said, well, do you know how to ask? Yeah. I said, well, and so in that moment, it's like, man, you didn't see this, but you know how many days after that people like, Los be preaching, huh? I said, no, man, Los is just, I mean, he filled with the and he's spiritual. He's not I said, Los is in this world, man. He's not up. This boy he just get who? It's almost like we get introduced to you. We got introduced to each other because we all could play. But we all knew, man, look, man, we creative outside of this. People had so much talent outside of football, but what you did in that moment, and not just that moment, many moments after, one of the biggest moments was, 9/11, man. I know it hit you different because, you got a brother in the Marines that was, used to go to the Pentagon. You had another brother, I think, that was, working in the World Trade Center, your brother Danny. I mean, because obviously you told us this after. How? Obviously, you said you got to speak to him right before practice. Man, what is going on in your mind when you see what's going on in the World Trade Center? You hear about the Pentagon. What does that do to a very young man who's like, man, that's my family. Football is cool, but that's my family. How did you deal with that day?
Man, that was crazy because we didn't really know what was going on. We had Tennessee week that week, and I was getting a big large role in that game. I was in the game plan. Spurrier had created certain things for me. So we was locked in, and I remember Monday we had pre-practice, just preparing the week, and I'm excited. I'm like, yo, this is my time right now, and then Tuesday hits, and we just go to class regular. But I remember around when we all went, classes were canceled, and we looking at each other like, yo, what's going on? And then we're trying to watch the TV, and we're seeing, plane hit the World Trade Center. We don't know what to say. And I don't know how you guys felt, but I know, proximity wise, I know how close we are to New York. I mean, you could see, from literally from like the high rises in Hoboken, from the projects, or from the schools, you can see, I mean, New York, it's right there. My brother worked there. New York was just a train ride away. You get there in 15 minutes. So when these things are happening, I start to think like, yo, what's going on? I knew what was happening. I started trying to make calls, and all the lines were done. You couldn't call nobody you didn't know. So I started to panic a little bit, and I started to pray. I started to think, because I'm the type of person that I don't also make any conclusions until I know any facts, right? So I live first off of like faith and positivity, and then whatever happens after that, then I'm able to like kind of process that. So I'm trying to have conversations with you guys and stuff, and then I remember getting a call from Coach Spurrier and the team, and they're asking questions, and we're worried, and for a few hours, man, I just had to lean on faith, man. I didn't want to make any conclusions because I didn't know what was happening. But thank God, my brother kind of was going late to work, so he wasn't able to take the train, to work. So he missed out on something great, right? Like, meaning like God protected him on that sense. And I remember right before practice, I was able to get a hold of them, and it's kind of like really, took this burden of the unknown. And then we had to process it, and 9/11, the game was canceled that week. I don't know if you remember. That's why we wound up having to play them at the end, and cost a chance to play in the Natty. I believe. But yeah, those moments that I lived with you guys. Also, you guys were my family at that time, man. You guys, the distraction of it too, like just living in the moment. You guys, making me laugh and talking about other things, and because we didn't know the seriousness of it. And sometimes in life we need those moments, where people are distracting us from the reality of wickedness and things that happen in this world. And I really appreciate you guys, my teammates, just living life normal at that moment, and try to like make sense of stuff, because I remember, I think we went back and played 2K for a little bit, or in the Dreamcast, you remember, and just talking, trying to get my mind out of those things. So I appreciate that.
Nah, Los. I mean, that day was crazy. I remember being in the bowling class, and I was in there with like Lester Norwood, and I'm just looking up at the screen. I see breaking news. And I see the first plane is already in there, and it's so early in the morning. I see the second plane. I yell out. I remember yelling out, "Yo, wait a minute! Like, breaking news means it's happening right now, right?" I'm like, That's not supposed to be that, because you don't really know. And Los, I don't know if you remember this. The very next game, I don't know who we played. We in the swamp. You remember that plane that came? It was a plane that came over. It was planes don't fly that low, and I remember like 90-something thousand just was like brother. It's almost like we went all out. It's like, yo, did you see that? Like,
yeah,
what? You know what I'm saying? So it's just so many moments. When I was in Florida, Los, you are the type of person, friend, teammate that everybody deserves. I tell you, I said, man, if you get you a Carlos Perez, man, Carlos gonna let you see what you really doing, what it really is, through the laughs, right, through the good times, through your faith, because you reinvigorate something in people. It's something about you that people just want to be around because it's authentic, right? It's not something that you're trying to do. You ain't got up no sign saying, "Hey, look at me." It's who you are, it's how you are, but most importantly, man, it's how you do it. Like you said, I can vouch for every member of your church, every person in your circle. I said, you can't tip, man. Y'all just getting the married father loaves. I got before he got married. Before, I said, I knew Madeline. We knew of Madeline way before y'all knew Maddie. We knew her as Maddie back then. But to be an educator now, to understand how important education and educators are to these young people. How has that impacted your life?
Yeah, man. So I think, I didn't choose education. I guess education chose me, right? We all had aspirations, man. I want to be in the league. I want to play 10 years. I want to play 12 years. I want to, do that. But, that wasn't, in my cards at that moment. After I got released, I didn't know what to do. Maddie was in education. So I'm like, yo, she's like, yo, maybe, you're good with kids. You present well. And I remember, man, I went to the worst at that time. It was like one of the worst high schools in Jersey City, right in the hood, called Lincoln High School. And I just subbed. I didn't have any, like any education, any knowledge of how to teach. So I'm like, man, I just sat in there, man, troop, and just told them stories, right? In the middle of the day, the principal comes and he's like, hey, I need to speak to you. I'm like, yo, bro, today's gonna be my last day. So then he brought me to his office and he was like, man, I had subs run in, run out, get garbage cans thrown at them. Crazy stuff happened to them. This is the first time that all the classes was just in there locked in. I was just telling them about life stories, telling them about Florida, telling them about life, and they were locked in. So I felt like, man, education is really about connection. You can't educate anybody, teach anybody if you don't connect with them. So I was connecting with the kids, and after that, I started teaching. I taught world language and history for a while, and then I went back to school, got a master's, and then I became like an assistant, like a dean of discipline. I had major impact. Then I became an assistant principal, and then now I'm a principal. It's kind of like climbing up that ladder. I've been doing that for years, and it's always the same thing, man. You want to connect with these kids, and then you want to educate them and find their skill, find what they're good at. So I feel like everybody has a certain skill. You just got to be able to unlock it. And once you unlock it, you feed it and they grow. And you just walk alongside of them with challenges. And this world is hard, man, for these generations, these teenagers, man. Life is, crazy. Like, for us, when we were out here, like our community was whoever we're around, right? Now, these people, their community is the world, with social media, with the social space, and, they struggle with comparison. They struggle with people, are ahead and doing this. And you have to kind of like encourage them in that manner and walk them through. But education, man, is really something that is a tool for me, really. It's a tool for me to just be a bridge and push, students forward in life. Whether before it was football, we had that platform where we were able to use it as a bridge. Now is for me is education. For you, is this platform and all your endeavors and all you do. And we're all pretty much doing the same thing. We're being bridges to grab this generation's attention, to push them, to the next phase of their life.
So the principal pulls you to the side and say, "Hey, man, listen. Let me tell you what really happened with these subs. And you the first one, and you said, man, you can't teach them if you can't connect with them. Now you a principal. Now do you have a newfound respect? Because when we had our teachers, we was like, man, is this person good? Do you have a newfound respect for educators now that you are the teacher? You being the principal, everything rises and sets with you. Assistant principals, teachers. How has being a principal had you realize, look, if we can't do this together, it is not going to work?
Oh man, I got so much respect for educators, man. These kids are wild, man. Sometimes, man, I'm like, yo, y'all in Iraq. There's a war blowing up in here. But but we have some really good teachers who care. People who are not just here for the paper, but they're here for the purpose. And in life, when there's different types of people, and that's okay. If you're here, for the paper, for the money, then this is not the job for you. But if you're here for purpose, to change lives, to really make an impact, then this is the job for you. And I always tell teachers, you have to know that, and you got to remember why you got yourself into it, because a teacher can change a life, man. That is true. Someone that you connect with at an early stage can really, be a catalyst for you to be able to push forward. So I do respect teachers a lot. And teachers are human beings, so they got to deal with something. So sometimes they come in the office and I got to calm them down. And I got to encourage them, because as a principal, you're really just a coach, a leader. You're there also, you're forming culture and you're creating, the climate of the school. But you're also encouraging your teachers and making sure that that they have everything they need to be successful. And you want to keep a good culture, and you also want to, step and defend them when you need to. But you also, sometimes have to call them out when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So, this work in education, especially now, troop is a different type of animal, man. Kids are different type of kids. And it's a different type of animal. But we have some great, educators in this world. And shout out to all the educators, man. We see you, we hear you, and we just need more educators of color too, to encourage our generation. So just step up.
Los, the University of Florida right now. Obviously, I know you keep up with them. I mean, how do you feel about Coach Navy? How you feel about DJ Lagway? You saw what Florida was able to do last year, going 8-5, hardest schedule in the country. How does Los feel? What is the optimism of Carlos Perez going into 2025 with his Florida Gator football team?
Man, I'm super excited. I've been going down, to catch a game every year. First of all, I mean, they treat us so well. The former players, they let us, kind of, still be part of this great family. And Coach Napier, he does a great job in connecting with the students. And I think that, they got their man. They got their man by Lagway. And I feel like, anytime that when we were successful and we had great seasons, we needed that person, that one guy. We got the Rex when Rex got on fire. After we were gone, Chris Lee. Then they had Tebow, and then they went a few number of years without having that one guy. And now I feel like they got that guy. And Lagway, he's coming into his own. He's gonna get some weapons. The culture is going. They went 8-5 last year, and they were not supposed to. I mean, when you looked at that schedule, people thought they were going to win 3-4 games, and but what they did last year is going to carry over to this year. So me, man, I'm thinking natty. I'm thinking undefeated season. I'm thinking we're catching people from storm. You see our basketball team is already.
Yes.
And when our basketball team starts doing their thing, the football, we compare. We're like, we gonna go get it. So it's a really exciting year for the University of Florida, for what we are going to do. So, I'm telling everybody, just make sure that you jump on the wagon right now, and don't wait till the middle of the season, because I think this is a great team.
This is the voice you listen to right now is Carlos Perez. I mean, former teammate, class of 2000, from 2000 2003, 106 catches, 1,313 yards, 11 tubs, over 12 points, over 12 yards a catch. But Lowe's, before I let you out of here, man, because I can do this all day with you, man. I know you got to get back to it. I heard a gentleman say, Matthew McConaughey, when he won his Best Actor award, he said something that stood with me. He said, in life, you need three things. He said, you need something to look up to, something to look forward to, and something to chase. What is Carlos Perez looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to continuing to grow, continuing to do major impact. I'm looking forward to raising, my three young men. I'm looking forward to really making some great changes in the landscape of education. But most importantly, I'm looking forward to emptying hell and filling heaven. I think that's my biggest chase. Man, preaching the gospel, really bringing hope, really trying to, change communities, change people, and just, show the love of God to everybody. So really looking for that in my life, next seasons of my life.
What does Carlos Perez? What does Carlos Perez look up to? What do you look up to?
Man, I really, really, really look up to the heroes of the faith. I look up to my friends. Life ain't easy, man. I think sometimes I don't look at things that are like a finished product, but man, like even you, I look up to you as someone who, was able to, I remember when you came, from Swainsboro, and you one moment changed your life, and you became a star, and the way you handled it, and the way you're able to now, do what you do. So I look up to, my friends. I look up to people who are still grinding, still trying to be great fathers. I look up to my parents, and just really the simple things in life. I look up to be honest, because we're still in a growing process. And if we are looking at finished products, sometimes we might be able to get a little bit discouraged. So I look at unfinished products that are grinding every day, and that pushes me to understand, man, I'm not a finished product, and as long as I have hope, as long as I have life, I'm able to grow.
And finally, Los, what is Carlos Perez chasing in his life?
Man, I'm chasing to be the man that God wants me to be. That, to be honest, I feel like that is all encompassed, isn't that? Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all his righteousness, and then everything else will follow. I feel like if I chase God, like I'm chasing everything else. I'm chasing being a better father, being a better husband, being a better friend, being a better educator, being a better pastor. So that's what I'm chasing. And I chase it every day. And it's like almost like chasing a ghost, because you might not ever get there, but as you're moving and you're chasing, you'll be better every day.
Los said, I am looking forward to emptying hell and filling heaven. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. Los, let me tell you something, man. You are a rare human being. I know you are as humble as they come. You will never ever toot your own horn. You will never ever say, look at me. But in the process of you not doing that, that's why God sends you where he sends you. It's not a coincidence you married Madeline. That was a plan. Lord, if she the one showed me. Well, look, Madeline said, I think you're good with kids. Because here's the thing. If you do play 10 years, you may never go to education because of how much the league could have affected your mind. So your wife is leaving you again. You're good with kids. You're walking as a sub. Now you are a principal. Called the ministry 12 years ago. Loving father, loving husband, loving brother, loving uncle, loving son, loving cousin, a lover of people. Los, the reason why I do 84 Reasons for people like yourself, man, because people remember you as a player. I said, but he's an even greater human being. As humble as I am, to be on this podcast, the most humbling thing is to call you my friend, man. You my brother forever. I'm gonna listen, me and the missus, we're gonna get our behinds up there. I'm in Georgia, we're gonna get our behinds up there to Jersey. I know I was close to you at one point. I was at a different stage in my life. And sometimes, as much as you wanted to see me, I wasn't in a position to see you at that point, because I said, man, I don't want Los, not that you would have cared, but I said, I don't want Los to see me like this, man. But now, like you mentioned, time is gone. Too many years gone by, man. I'm trying to make it so a year. You say you go to Florida every year. I'm trying to make it yearly. Either you come to me or I come to you. Because like my daddy say, sometimes I just want to touch your face. I just want to see your face and touch your face. So Los, boy, I love you to the moon and back, man. Tell Madeline I said hello. Tell them 3 triplets you got, them 3 triplet looking sons you got. They all look just like you. I said every last one of them look just like Los. Tell them I want them to know. Say, Ben Troop told me to tell y'all got the best daddy there is, because before he was y'all daddy, he was a great man, and he continuing that road, but he loved God before, he gonna love God during, and nobody can make you stop loving God. I'm gonna keep loving you. He is Carlos Perez, I am Ben Troop. We are only 2 of the Fab 5. We ain't have time to get into the Fab 5. Y'all might get privy to it. We're gonna have, the other cast members of the Fab 5, but Los, never stop being you, man. You being you is why the world is better. As a wise man once say, listen, man, if you can't change the world around you. And that's what you're doing every single day. And like I say, man, Los is not a fan of one thing. Los ain't a fan of loose shirts. I don't want my shirt loose. I work out. I got to show. I got to show off that I got to show off. I've been working out. Los, man, I love you, man. Tell your mom and dad and your family I said hello, man. You have made my day today, man. I appreciate you, boy.
No, thank you. Love you, brother.
All right, be good. Tell them youngers to sit down. Sit y'all behinds down.
I'll tell them, my boy.
All right, yes, sir. All right.